We spend so much of our lives caught between what was and what might be, trapped in worry. Worry steals our peace, clouds our decisions, and disconnects us from the present moment. Master Shi Heng Yi teaches that when we stop worrying and start observing, life begins to unfold naturally. The goal isn't to control life, it's to flow with it. When we talk about worry, most people think it's a natural part of life, something that simply happens to us. But Master Shi Heng Yi often reminds us that worry doesn't come from life itself, it comes from the way the mind interprets life. The world around us is neutral. Events, situations, and people, they are what they are. It is the mind that adds stories, meanings, and projections, and from those stories, worry is born. Worry is the imagination misused. It's the creative force of the human mind turned against itself. The same energy that allows you to envision a better future can also trap you in cycles of fear. The mind says, what if I fail? Oh, what if this doesn't work out? And before you even begin, you've already created resistance, a wall between yourself and the present moment. The irony is, the more you think about what might go wrong, the more energy you give to the very thing you fear. Shi Heng Yi teaches that the first step toward freedom is awareness. You cannot transform what you cannot see. Most people are unaware that they are constantly worrying because worry has become their normal state of being. Their mind is always projecting, never resting. So the practice begins not by trying to stop worrying, but by simply seeing that you are worrying. Awareness breaks identification. The moment you can see your thoughts as thoughts, you create a small space between the thinker and the thought. And in that space, peace begins to return. This is where mindfulness becomes practical, not mystical. It's not about escaping life or becoming passive. It's about returning to the clarity of perception. When you are fully present, you respond to reality as it is, not as your mind imagines it to be. The mind may still whisper, but you are no longer its slave. You can observe its noise without reacting to it. In that observation, worry starts to dissolve naturally. Imagine sitting beside a river. The current represents your thoughts. Most people are caught in the water, struggling, drowning in the flow of endless thinking. Awareness allows you to step out of the river and sit on the bank. You're still near the river. You can still see the thoughts passing by, but you are no longer swept away. This simple shift changes everything. You begin to experience life with less resistance and more flow. From a psychological point of view, worry feeds on uncertainty. The mind wants to know, it wants to control. But the more it seeks control, the more unstable it becomes, because life is unpredictable by nature. From a philosophical view, this is where humility arises. The acceptance that you don't need to know everything to live meaningfully. You don't need to predict every outcome to trust the process. Life doesn't ask you to know, it asks you to experience. Our worry cannot exist in the same space as trust. The moment trust enters, worry loses its power. And trust doesn't mean believing everything will go your way. It means knowing that whatever happens, you will meet it with clarity and strength. That is the true freedom. Not freedom from difficulty, but freedom from unnecessary suffering. Shi Heng Yi once said, the one who worries tries to control the wind. The one who understands learns to move with it. This is the essence of wisdom. Life's flow is not against you. It's your resistance that creates the struggle. When you start to see through the illusion of worry, you begin to realize that most of the barriers you face were built by your own mind. So pause for a moment. Observe the thought that says, what if it doesn't work? Don't fight it. Just see it for what it is, a thought. Nothing more. In that awareness, something inside you softens. You begin to see that life is already unfolding exactly as it needs to. And when you stop feeding the mind stories, when you stop identifying with its noise, You finally experience what has been waiting underneath all along. A quiet strength, a clear presence. That's when life starts working. Not because you've gained control over everything, but because you've finally stopped standing in your own way. The reason most people live in a constant state of worry is because they are trying to control life. Control seems safe. It gives the illusion of certainty, that if you just plan enough, prepare enough, predict enough, everything will unfold the way you want it to. But this is where the struggle begins, because life does not obey control. It moves according to its own rhythm. The more you try to force it, the more resistance you create. Master Shi Heng Yi often explains that control is the mind's greatest addiction. The ego survives on the belief that it is the doer, the director of every outcome. Yet, when you observe life carefully, you realize how little you actually control. You cannot control the weather, the timing of events, or how others respond to you. Even your own thoughts and emotions, they arise spontaneously, often without your permission. Still, the mind keeps fighting for control, believing that if it can just hold on a little tighter, everything will finally be secure. This is the trap. The tighter you hold, the more anxious you become. You begin to fear every deviation, every surprise, every delay. And in that fear, you stop living. You stop flowing. You turn life into a constant calculation, a never-ending mental negotiation with reality. The moment life doesn't match your expectations, the mind suffers, not because life is cruel, but because you demanded that it must be different. Worry, in its purest form, is resistance, the rejection of uncertainty. But uncertainty is not the enemy. Uncertainty is life itself. Without it, there would be no growth, no discovery, no possibility. Imagine reading a book where you already know every word, every ending. Would you still feel alive turning each page? Probably not. The beauty of life lies in its unpredictability. The wisdom of living lies in allowing that unpredictability to unfold without losing your inner balance. Shi Heng Yi says, you can either fight the current or learn to swim with it. Control tries to fight, awareness learns to swim. The difference lies in trust. When you begin to trust life, you stop demanding that things happen your way. Instead, you focus on showing up fully, doing what you can, and letting the rest move as it must. This doesn't mean you stop taking responsibility. It means you act with clarity, not with fear. You do your part, and then you let go. Letting go is not passive. It's powerful. It means you've reached a point where your energy is no longer wasted on trying to control the uncontrollable. You shift your focus from managing outcomes to managing your state of being. That's where real strength lives. Because when your inner state is calm, even chaos outside cannot disturb you. Psychologically, this shift transforms your relationship with anxiety. Instead of trying to fix every external problem, you begin to see that most tension arises internally, from your own resistance to what is. Philosophically, it's the beginning of wisdom, understanding that harmony doesn't mean everything goes your way. It means you align yourself with the way things are. And here's the paradox. When you stop trying to control life, life starts aligning with you. Because your energy changes. You stop acting from fear and start acting from flow. Opportunities appear not because they were missing before, but because your worry was too loud for you to hear them. So look at your own life right now. Where are you still trying to control the uncontrollable? Where are you still fighting what is already unfolding? Notice the tension that arises in your body when you demand certainty. Then take a breath. Step back. Ask yourself, what if I trusted this moment instead of trying to dominate it? It's in that surrender, not of effort, but of attachment, that you reclaim your peace. Because the truth is simple, you were never meant to control the river. You were meant to learn how to flow with it. When the mind is constantly restless, it creates noise, and in that noise you cannot hear the truth about yourself, about others, or about life. Worry thrives in that noise. It feeds on the chaos of thought. It multiplies when your attention jumps from one idea to another, from one fear to the next. That's why, as Master Shi Heng Yi often says, you cannot think your way out of worry. You must observe your way through it. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It's the presence of awareness. It's the point where the mind stops pulling you in every direction and you start seeing things as they really are. Most people mistake stillness for passivity, as if being still means doing nothing. But stillness is not about inactivity, it's about clarity. When the mind becomes still, you can finally act with precision instead of panic. In martial arts, this principle is deeply understood. Before any movement, there is silence. A pause before the strike, a breath before the action. That moment of stillness determines everything. It is in that silence that balance is found. The same is true for the mind. When you cultivate inner stillness, you respond to life instead of reacting to it. You stop being driven by impulse and start being guided by awareness. But how do we reach this stillness in a world that never stops moving? The answer is not to escape the world, but to anchor yourself within it. Begin with something simple, your breath. When you become aware of your breathing, you bring your mind back to the present moment. Every breath becomes a reminder that you are here, not lost in yesterday or trapped in tomorrow. Worry cannot survive in the present moment because worry lives in time. It needs a past to regret or a future to fear. The present is too silent, too real for it to exist. Philosophically, stillness is the gateway to understanding. It's where thought gives way to insight. When you stop trying to control or interpret everything, the mind relaxes, and in that relaxation, deeper intelligence begins to emerge. Psychologically, this process is known as metacognition, the ability to observe your thoughts rather than be consumed by them. The more you develop this awareness, the more freedom you gain. You begin to see that your thoughts are not absolute truths. They are temporary visitors passing through consciousness. Shi Heng Yi teaches that the mind is like a lake. When the water is disturbed, you cannot see your reflection clearly. But when the water becomes still, the reflection appears effortlessly. The same applies to your inner life. When the mind settles, you begin to perceive reality as it is, not as your fears distort it. Stillness is not something to find, it is something to allow. It is already within you, beneath the layers of noise, waiting for your attention to return. And when you begin to live from that space of stillness, something profound happens. Your external circumstances may remain the same, but your relationship with them changes completely. You stop reacting emotionally to every fluctuation, and you start responding with wisdom. You stop feeding the cycle of anxiety and begin generating peace instead. That is the power of stillness. It doesn't remove chaos from life, but it prevents chaos from entering you. So the next time you feel the pull of worry, when the mind races ahead or drifts back, pause. Don't fight the thoughts. Don't suppress them. Just sit quietly and watch. Feel your breath. Notice the space between each inhale and exhale. That space is where your power lives. That space is who you truly are when you are not lost in thinking. In the end, peace is not found in escaping the storm. It's found in realizing that you are the calm within it. And when you discover that calm, life begins to move differently around you. Because when the mind becomes still, the world begins to make sense. There comes a moment in every person's journey when they realize that no amount of resistance will change what already is. That moment, though often uncomfortable, is the doorway to freedom. Acceptance begins not when everything feels right, but when you stop fighting what's wrong. And this is where most people get lost. They confuse acceptance with giving up. But acceptance isn't surrendering to defeat. It's aligning with reality. so that transformation can begin. Master Shi Heng Yi teaches that what you resist will persist, and what you accept begins to transform. When you resist a situation, a person, or even your own emotions, you're feeding energy into conflict. You tighten the mind, the body, the spirit. Everything becomes contracted. But when you allow yourself to see life as it is, not as you wish it to be, something softens. You move from tension to flow. That shift alone is transformative, because you are no longer at war with the moment. Psychologically, resistance is a defense mechanism. It's how the mind tries to protect itself from discomfort. We push away what we don't want to feel, we deny what we can't control, and we try to escape what we don't understand. But every act of resistance strengthens the very thing we're trying to avoid. The emotion becomes heavier, the thought becomes louder, the problem feels larger. Acceptance, on the other hand, disarms the cycle. The moment you say, yes, this is what's here, the mind stops fighting. And when the mind stops fighting, energy becomes available again. Energy that can be used for clarity, for healing, for purposeful action. Think of life like water. When you try to push against it, you exhaust yourself. But when you move with it, you find rhythm. Acceptance doesn't mean you agree with everything that happens. It means you recognize that fighting reality only multiplies suffering. It's about conserving your strength for what you can change, instead of wasting it on what you can't. Shi Heng Yi often speaks about the unity between strength and softness. True strength is not rigid, it's flexible. The tree that bends in the wind doesn't break. It endures because it adapts. Acceptance is that same kind of strength, the ability to bend without losing your center, to face reality as it is and still remain open-hearted. This openness allows wisdom to enter. From a philosophical perspective, acceptance reveals the truth that suffering doesn't come from the situation itself, but from your attachment to how you think it should be. The mind creates expectations, ideals, and imagined outcomes. And when life doesn't match those expectations, it calls it wrong. But life isn't wrong. It's just irregular. The pain comes from the distance between what is and what we want it to be. The smaller that distance becomes, the freer you feel. In practice, this means learning to pause before judgment. When something difficult happens, instead of asking, why me? Ask, what is this showing me? That single shift turns resistance into reflection. Suddenly, every challenge becomes a teacher. Every delay becomes direction. Life stops being a series of problems to solve and becomes a continuous lesson in understanding. When you live with acceptance, you move through life with far less fear. You stop needing everything to be perfect before you can feel peaceful. You begin to trust that every experience, even the painful ones, carries something essential for your growth. And that trust changes how you live. You become lighter, more grounded, and more present. Acceptance doesn't mean you stop evolving. It simply means you stop wasting energy fighting the present, so you can use that energy to shape the future. So take a moment and ask yourself, what are you resisting right now? What truth are you avoiding? Let it in, see it clearly, feel it fully. Because what you accept, you transform. And that's the paradox of wisdom. When you stop fighting life, life starts fighting for you. Many people believe peace is something that simply appears when the world around them becomes quiet, when work slows down, when problems are solved, when everything finally falls into place. But true peace doesn't arrive from the outside. It's built deliberately through discipline. Without discipline, the mind becomes restless. And a restless mind will always find a reason to worry, no matter how calm life seems. Master Shi Heng Yi often says that discipline is not about control, it's about alignment. It's the art of training your body, your thoughts, and your emotions to move in the same direction. Without that inner order, energy scatters. You wake up tired, distracted, reacting to everything instead of responding from clarity. The mind, when left untrained, behaves like an untrained animal, easily startled, easily led astray. The purpose of discipline is not to suppress the mind, but to guide it. In the Shaolin tradition, training begins with the body. Because when you can command the body, you begin to command the mind. The repetition of simple, mindful movements, breathing, stretching, focusing, is not about physical perfection. It's about cultivating awareness. Each breath becomes a lesson in patience. Each movement, a reminder that control is not about tension, but precision. The more disciplined your practice, the more effortless your life becomes. Psychologically, discipline builds stability. It creates a structure within which freedom can exist. People often think discipline limits them, but in truth, it liberates them. A disciplined person doesn't need to depend on motivation. They act from clarity. They don't wait for the right mood or the perfect conditions. They simply do what needs to be done. This consistency strengthens the mind. It creates resilience. And from resilience, peace naturally grows. Look at how worry behaves. Worry loves chaos. It thrives in uncertainty, in the space where there is no order or intention. When your life lacks rhythm, the mind fills the gaps with fear. But when you cultivate daily discipline, even something as simple as morning meditation, mindful breathing, or structured physical movement, you begin to reclaim that space. You replace chaos with consciousness, and slowly the noise begins to fade. Philosophically, discipline is an act of devotion, not to external success, but to inner harmony. It's a daily decision to stay awake, to stay aware, to live deliberately. It's not about perfection. There will be days when the mind feels heavy, when practice feels empty. But that's precisely when discipline matters most. Because discipline is not about feeling like doing it. It's about remembering why you do it. Every time you return to practice, you are reminding yourself that peace is not found through escape, but through presence. Shi Heng Yi teaches that the disciplined mind becomes unshakable. It does not mean emotionless, but balanced. When challenges arise, the disciplined person doesn't collapse under pressure. They adjust, breathe, and continue. Like a mountain standing unmoved by the wind, discipline gives you that same steadiness. You stop reacting to life impulsively and start responding with wisdom. This kind of mental and emotional steadiness is not built overnight. It's a process of repetition, 1,000 small choices that create one powerful transformation. Each time you sit in stillness, when your mind wants distraction, you strengthen your awareness. Each time you choose to act from patience instead of frustration, you refine your character. Discipline is the bridge between understanding and embodiment. Knowing what's right is not enough. You must practice it until it becomes your nature. So ask yourself, where does your energy go every day? Into reaction or into direction? Every habit, every choice, either feeds distraction or builds discipline. And the difference between a peaceful life and a chaotic one often comes down to this: how consistently you return to yourself. Because the truth is, peace isn't given. It's trained. It's built moment by moment, breath by breath, through the quiet strength of disciplined awareness. And when the mind becomes disciplined, life itself becomes calm. When you truly begin to observe life, you start to see that everything is always moving, changing, unfolding, transforming. Nothing stands still. Every breath, every sunrise, every challenge, every ending, all of it is movement. The problem is not with the movement of life. The problem is with our resistance to it. We spend so much energy trying to hold on to what's passing or to rush toward what's not yet ready. In doing so, we step out of harmony with life's natural rhythm. Master Shi Heng Yi often reminds his students, you cannot stop the wind, but you can learn to move with it. To flow with life means to trust this constant movement. to see change not as a threat, but as an invitation. Yet for most people, change triggers fear. The mind craves stability and predictability. It wants life to move according to its design. But life's design is far more intelligent than our plans. And the moment we stop fighting that truth, something miraculous happens. We begin to flow. Flow is not passive. It doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you participate in life without resistance. You engage fully with what's in front of you, not clinging to what was, not rushing toward what will be. Flow is the meeting point between surrender and action. It's the balance of effort and ease, doing and being. When you live in flow, you stop wasting energy on fighting reality and start using that energy to move harmoniously within it. Psychologically, this is a shift from control to cooperation. Instead of seeing life as an obstacle to overcome, you begin to see it as a process to cooperate with. Every situation, even the difficult ones, carries a lesson, a rhythm, a direction. When you flow, you listen for that rhythm. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this trying to teach me? That change in perspective transforms struggle into strength. Philosophically, flow connects deeply with the idea of unity, the understanding that you are not separate from life, but a part of its continuous unfolding. The river doesn't resist the rocks in its path. It moves around them, smooths them, continues its journey. Likewise, when you stop resisting challenges, they begin to shape you, refine you, and prepare you for the next chapter. Every obstacle becomes a teacher. Every ending becomes a beginning. Shi Heng Yi teaches that when you flow with life, life begins to cooperate with you. You stop feeling like you're swimming upstream. Opportunities appear where before there was only frustration. Relationships feel lighter, work feels more meaningful, and even uncertainty feels purposeful. This isn't magic, it's alignment. When your mind, body, and actions are in harmony with the present moment, you stop creating unnecessary resistance. And where there is no resistance, energy moves freely. It's not easy to live this way. The mind will always want to interfere. It will say, you should be further ahead by now. Or, this isn't how it's supposed to be. That's when you pause, take a breath, and return to awareness. Remind yourself that you are part of something greater, a process that knows more than your limited perspective. Flow begins when trust replaces fear. It's not blind trust, it's a deep understanding that whatever unfolds, you will have the capacity to meet it fully. So ask yourself, where in your life are you swimming against the current? Where are you resisting what's already happening? The more you fight, the more exhausted you become. The more you let go, the more alive you feel. Flow doesn't mean escaping effort. It means letting effort become natural. Because when you flow with life, life flows with you. You stop chasing, you stop forcing, and suddenly things begin to align. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You stopped fighting what was meant to move. And maybe that's the quiet truth hidden in all of Master Shi Heng Yi's teachings. That peace and progress are never found through control, but through trust. When you stop fighting the current, you don't get carried away. You finally learn to move with grace.